Fast fact. Your brain associates the color red with urgency, warnings, and clearance events. A price written in red against a light background automatically makes people think the discount is deeper, even if the savings are minor. I'm Drew Thomas, and this is Bank Chats. We can always circle back and start over. Why not?
Without it even stopping it.
Yeah, no. So, we talk a lot, I think, about, we obviously this is about banking. The podcast is called Bank Chats. Mm. And I think that the original intent behind the show, and it still is one of the key points of the show, is to explain banking specifically. Mm. But I think that we have definitely branched out over the years into some things that are beyond just telling people what a checking account is or what an IRA does, and just trying to give some financial education in general to people, because quite frankly, there's not a lot of it out there.
Yeah, things that you guys have asked for, not necessarily, like you said, what an IRA
that I have specifically.
You have not asked for. Our viewers have asked for. Yes, we have asked the viewers what you want to hear, and we've gotten some feedback. And today's topic it kind of loops into the time of year where everybody is back to school shopping. So I think that's what sparked this conversation is, because we covered this last year. I think it was last year, right? We covered it. Yeah, we're going on a few years of this now. So we did cover back to school shopping and how to get your, the best bargains and stuff like that on a previous episode. But so this one kind of loops into, the psychology of pricing, and I guess it could be, it depends on if you are a consumer or if you're a business. If you're a consumer, this might be, what to look out for. In a business, it could be how to get a few extra bucks from your customer, maybe,
It actually is amazing to me and I have no idea if this is true in other countries, but in the United States especially, how many seasons that we have that are based around shopping or buying something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have back to school shopping season. We have the holiday shopping season. We have President's Day sales in the winter for buying mattresses. There's always a shopping season of some sort or to partake in. Yeah, I guess you could say. Pretty soon we're going to be getting into the fact where you can't use your regular coffee creamer. You're going to have to buy pumpkin spice coffee creamer because it's that time of year.
I already started buying. We bought pumpkin cookies the other day, and they're fantastic.
Yeah. The funny thing to me is and I know I'm going to ruin it for a bunch of people, I guess, but I love pumpkin spice stuff. I think it tastes delicious. Huh? None of it is pumpkin.
That's just spice.
It's spice. Yeah. It's nutmeg and it's
had
cinnamon
a pumpkin pie
and
for breakfast this morning. Yeah.
You had a pumpkin pie?
Oh, one of these little, like little guys,
Oh, okay. Yeah. But that's the thing, like when they say like pumpkin spice, like if you actually taste pumpkin, it's not that great.
No, by itself. Right. Yeah. You're tasting the cinnamon. Yeah.
So back to school shopping season, you nailed it. It's that time of year. But I think this is going to end up being a series of episodes, not necessarily that you have to listen to one in order to understand what happens in the next.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have at least 2, possibly 3 episodes here on pricing, shopping, things that you can look for. And I don't know. There's just a lot to cover here. Mm-hmm. And I definitely don't think we can do this in 1 or even possibly even 2 episodes. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
So we're going to start, I think, more general is what it seems like here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, like you said, the psychology of pricing.
Yes. Yep.
And, what goes into setting prices, whether, like you said, if you're a business or not. But so what do you want to start with here? I mean, let me put it to you this way. If I said to you, hey, this book is this this book is $4.99 or $5, which is more appealing to you?
$4.99.
Yeah.
By default. Yeah.
Why?
I mean, it's 1 penny difference. So it's cheaper.
It is technically cheaper. That is true.
Yeah. Psychologically, there's a couple factors. Odd versus even is one. We perceive, even numbers as more of a bargain, I think, right? Was that?
Well, I don't know. We can get into that, but I think that's the thing. It's like there's even something as simple as the way the prices are set.
Yeah.
That concept of $5 versus $4.99. There's a psychological element to that.
There is, yeah.
You are being tricked seems a little bit. You're not being tricked. I mean, it is, but you're being psychologically manipulated, maybe a little bit. Maybe even that's too strong of a word. Into believing that item is cheaper than it really is.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that we've talked about this in the past, and I think that your wife is the same. Like, you're this concept of like, hey, it was, how much was that thing? And a lot of times, if you say to your wife, like, how much was that? She would say, oh, it's $4.
Yes. Or it's usually, you won't believe how much I saved today.
Yeah. But I think that there are a lot of people out there that when they see $4.99 in their mind, they're paying $4, not
that's
$5.
True. Yeah. Cause we read, from left to right.
Yeah. So you completely underestimate what you're paying.
Right.
Whenever you see that first digit that's lower than.
Right. Yeah.
1 penny more would be a $5, but that doesn't matter. You only paid $4 for that item, not $5.
Right. I guess, yeah. If you bought 100 items, you'd save $1,
Yeah.
But in your mind, you're saving a heck of a lot more, than that 1 penny. Right?
Yeah. And I think that also comes to, again, we're going to talk psychology here, right? People don't necessarily buy based on information or on objective analysis. In a lot of times, and they buy based on emotion. They buy based on perception. They want to be able to tell the story to their friends. Oh, what a great deal I got on this thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're buying. You're buying that feeling, that emotional connection to whatever. You're not really buying.
You're not buying that product. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And you're not buying it based on the fact that necessarily it was cheaper, although sometimes it might play into the fact that, I got it on sale. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So I'm gonna throw some very, very boring words out here just to set this, and then we'll become less boring. So Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky did work on heuristics and biases that showed that people frequently make judgments using mental shortcuts rather than objective analysis. And their anchoring research demonstrated how arbitrary numbers influence later judgments.
So that mental shortcut, that's what you're talking about,
right.
You're 4 versus 5. Even though it's a penny difference, that's your mental shortcut. Hey, 4 is less than 5. That's a better deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess the thing is, like, would you rather take a shortcut, or would you rather have to spend 20 minutes evaluating every purchasing decision that you make?
Well, if it was my brain, I'd be spending 20 minutes evaluating every purchase you make.
Yeah, mine probably too, a little bit, but sometimes I spend more than that. But, but I guess it depends on what you're buying, right?
Yeah.
If I'm researching a new computer, I'm going to spend a lot more time evaluating it than if I'm buying, I don't know, a McDonald's value meal.
I think that's huge. Yeah. If it's something that you're going to be using for a long time, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm doing research and I'm going back and forth in my head for hours, days, weeks, months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Determining, okay, is this, and the price too. I mean, if it's something that is higher price, I'm definitely going to spend a lot more time deciding if this is the right product or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. That brings up a good point. Like, you're doing a lot of research.
Yeah.
Right. But for a lot of people, more information doesn't necessarily equate to a better purchasing decision. It can.
Yeah.
but it can also kind of become information overload.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you kind of get that sort of decision stagnation where you can't make a decision because there's too many conflicting variables and you can't decide which one of them is.
Yeah.
You can't prioritize things.
Right. Right. Well, luckily, I mean, and we just had this conversation, a similar conversation before we started this. Now we have tools that can help with that. So now I know I've used AI to help me like go through pros and cons between two different products. You know, it kind of takes a little bit of that it goes through the weeds and does the lays everything out nicely for you at least. So that you're making the decision, but it makes it a little bit easier sometimes.
Yeah. I think that one of the examples, and there's an author, her name is Nancy Harhut, and I was fortunate enough to get to see her speak at a conference.
Okay.
And one of the things that she pointed out whenever she was demonstrating that more information doesn't always necessarily lead you to a better buying decision. And it's on something that you probably see at least a couple of times a week.
A product that we see a couple times a week?
You could call it a product. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Fast food menus.
Okay.
So what about 10, 20 years ago, they started putting calorie counts on fast food menus.
Yeah.
Thinking that more information telling people that this burger or this set of fries or this whatever, chicken sandwich, had your entire daily allotment of calories in it.
I thought that was a mandatory thing. I thought
it is mandatory.
Okay.
But the idea was that more information would help influence people to make better purchasing decisions.
Okay.
Right. And in reality, it makes no difference whatsoever.
No, the price makes the biggest difference because I'm going to buy that $1 burger, $2 burger. I'm not going to buy that $7 salad,
Maybe, that's true. But it also doesn't really deter people from buying fast food at all.
Yeah, right.
Either, and by the way, sometimes that salad is no
better calorie wise. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the concept that more information, now that I know that burger's, 800 calories in one cheeseburger, now maybe I'll elect to buy something else. It doesn't
make a difference,
it makes no difference at all. And there have been some limited studies that have suggested that it has had the opposite effect, that people being told, hey, what you're doing is unhealthy, makes people more sort of like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Or hey, that's 800 calories. I should be full for longer, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, theoretically, The other thing that she pointed out was that in terms of information, how can I put this? Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think that you could make better buying decisions today than you could last year? You're only talking like a year's difference here. So, I mean,
yeah, I'd say yes.
Based on what? Based on the fact that there's more information available to you or something else?
More information. I'm 1 year older, hopefully 1 year wiser,
Okay.
Yeah, I and like I had mentioned, tools, to help you weed through all of the information. But I'd say that I'm more equipped to, do that this year than last year. Yeah.
So that's good. So statistically, you're in the minority.
Oh, okay.
Statistically, people say that they don't really feel like they're any better equipped to make decisions today than they would have been like 2, 3, 5 years ago.
Okay.
Based solely on how much information was available to them. Because a lot of people will say, well, I could read magazines, I could watch TV, I could read Consumer Reports, or I could do, internet-based cost comparisons and stuff like that back then. But what the crazy thing is that the internet is now comprised of, and this is as of 2025, 181 zettabytes of information.
Yeah.
Which is equivalent approximately to 250 billion DVDs. And it's exponentially growing. They estimate that about 90% of the information that is currently available to you was put on the internet within the last 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I'm 90% better at being able to make purchasing decisions than I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess maybe
you used to use your gut more for purchasing. Like maybe you didn't regret a purchase, back then when you didn't have the information.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes I think too, like having more information just leads you into I used to work in sales and people used to come in and I worked in sales in the late 90s, early 2000s when computers were still novel enough that people were buying them pretty regularly. And upgrading them pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And I remember people would come in and they would say to me, well, when's the best time to buy a computer? Was it now, like around back to school season? Is this the best time to buy a computer, or should I wait for Christmas and Black Friday sales, or should I wait? And a lot of the time the question was, well, when are the new ones coming out? Like, should I wait?
Doesn't matter.
To buy the next best thing. And I used to tell people all the time, the best time to buy a computer is now. And if you come in tomorrow, I'm going to tell you the best time to buy a computer is now.
Right. Yeah.
It's just it moves
obsolescence
so
is planned obsolescence is huge in that kind of that industry. Yeah. As soon as something comes out, the next one comes out the next day, and what you bought for $1,000 is now obsolete.
Yep. So let's go into some of these things in a little bit more detail.
Okay.
Because we've touched on a couple of things, but I think some of these things warrant some additional detail. So tell me a little bit about charm pricing.
So that is the term that we for the pricing that we were talking about. That's your $3.99 versus $4.
Okay.
And it was that perceived difference between a short or a small difference in pricing.
Okay.
So research found that effect is strongest when prices are closer together. So you're $3.99 versus $4.
Okay.
And when consumers are comparing alternatives directly.
So two different types of candy versus candy and TV.
Yeah. It could be your name brand versus your store brand.
Oh, okay. I got you.
And we could talk about that a lot on another episode of just talk about store brands.
Totally. I mean, when I was a kid, the store brand, like generic stuff, was the white can with the black block lettering, and it just said cheese.
Oh, really?
And you had no idea what
I don't
kind
remember
of
that.
cheese it was, or it said like flour.
Oh,
and it was just now a lot of your
they look very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of marketing put behind making the generic stuff look appealing enough for people to want to buy it.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. We can go into that, in greater detail. But I guess, and we've kind of, the question that sort of was brought up was, are consumers really being fooled by that penny, or are they using an efficient mental shortcut? And I would say they're not really being fooled, but I also wouldn't call it an efficient mental shortcut, because you're usually shortchanging yourself. I didn't do that.
Yeah. Usually it's so minute that it doesn't really matter, but
but to go back to our point before, if you're mentally calculating the lower dollar value, and then you multiply that over a trip to the grocery store where you're buying 50 items, now all of a sudden you're mentally calculating a bill that's $50 less than what you're actually paying.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a very efficient mental shortcut at that point. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
And
that plays into that odd and even pricing that we had talked about earlier too, where odd prices equate to, and I was wrong earlier. Odd prices, we perceive odd prices as more of a bargain, whereas even prices are more quality or luxury. So $999 versus $1,000. $1,000 seems more luxurious or high quality than $999.
So it's not necessarily so. I'm curious, like, so does $800 feel? Yeah, I guess it kind of does. Like, I'm doing a personal gut check. I think $800 feels a little bit more, I don't know, lavish than $799.
Yeah, I think for the larger numbers, you're reading the number in totality. Like 990. Well, 800 seems just as luxurious as 700, I guess. Even though starts with an odd versus an even number.
Yeah.
So I think for those larger numbers, the 990, it's the 99 at the end.
Yeah. I've also found, for me personally, that sometimes I'm definitely influenced by this, just because 999 in a weird way feels more expensive to me than 1,000. Even though you're adding a completely extra digit.
Yeah.
The 1 and 3 zeros just for some reason feels less expensive than 9999. It feels like you're like maxing out the nines on a calculator, and it just feels expensive. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I like the round numbers because if I have a coupon or some discount, it's a little easier to do the math in my head on a round number like that as opposed to a 999.
Yeah. And honestly, it's funny that you bring that up because that was one of the things I was going to suggest we talk about when we talk about shopping in your stores, because a lot of times you shop in stores and they say, 25% off, 30% off. But if you're not good at doing that quick math, you may not necessarily know. And there are definitely stores now that actually put up signs that say like 30% off, and then it'll have examples of all the prices so that you can see what the actual
right. Yeah, you see that a lot with like clothing stores and stuff like that. Yeah.
But they definitely didn't used to do that. Like you used to have to do the math in your own head,
which is like really ironic because now you have a calculator in your pocket at all times. You don't have to do the mental math at all ever.
Yeah, not if you don't really want to. All right, so what other kind of psychological pricing tricks can we discuss today?
You kind of just brought up anchoring, which is like was a certain price, now a different price. So we see, if something was $799 versus was $1,299, now $799, which was more appealing. Psychologically, your second one is more appealing.
Okay, so rather than just telling me that the price is $7.99,
right?
You're telling me it was $12.99, now $7.99.
Right. And my wife falls for that. That's the one that she falls for all the time. Guess how much I saved, because she'll take that first number and take whatever she paid and do the math, and a lot of times that's artificially inflated, especially like before a sale or something. They mark that up like crazy.
I would argue that happens a lot on I'm not trying to call anybody out, I'm just saying it happens a lot on a lot of your big online retailers, your big box stores, things like that, especially Black Friday sales and stuff, where the price of something might have been cheaper 3 weeks ago,
right?
But then they raised the price for 3 weeks so that on Black Friday they could reduce it from the retail price.
Yeah, or they take the max price that it's ever been. It was at one point, they don't say at what point it was this ridiculous price.
Yeah, I think discount stores, like we used to have a place in town. Well, it wasn't just in town, but there used to be a store out there called Value City.
Yeah,
and Value City.
Oh, we loved Value City.
Oh yeah, we did too. I mean, we shopped at Value City all the time.
And lawn furniture at the same store.
Yeah, and but they always had that was ticketed price, or they would have a something on there that said they would have like the original store tag on it. Like if they bought out a closeout deal from some other major store like Sears at the time or something, they would leave the Sears price tag on it that had a price, and then they would have another tag on it that had the Value City price.
Right. I think like Ross and TJ Maxx and stuff, they kind of do something similar. Ollie's does something similar sometimes. They're always advertising their price versus our price type thing.
Their price. That's what I was mentally searching for. Their price versus our price. And I think that so what it says is that from a psychological point of view, you're not actually evaluating the price, you're evaluating the difference between the two prices. So you're saying, wow, $12.99 to $7.99, I'm saving $500.
Yes, it's the perceived savings.
Right. Not I'm still spending $800. Right. So that's kind of where they get you. There's another sort of trick that involves that sort of anchoring that we discussed briefly, I think the other day, was movie like popcorn or drink sizes when you go somewhere. Like this notion that a small soda is $2, a medium soda is $5, and a large soda is $6.
Right.
The medium soda, they are not trying to sell you a medium soda. What they're doing is they're saying, well, they're getting you to do that perceived value and calculate the difference between prices and saying, well, why would I ever buy a medium for $5 when I can get a large for $6? Right. So that's the goal. The goal is to get you to go from the $2 small to the $6 large by putting some medium in there that tricks you, and in some cases you might be able to buy two smalls, which would be equivalent to a large for $4. But it doesn't matter because they already got you to buy the $6 large.
Right. Or a store that charges you a lot of money, but then gives you a product or a service for a real steep discount. I was at Costco over the weekend.
Okay.
Same thing. You pay $300 on groceries, because you're buying everything in bulk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you have dinner for, $8 for a family of 4 in the food court because you get a hot dog for $1.50 and a piece of pizza for $2 and a soda for 79 cents. I can't remember the last time I saw anything on any menu that was under $1 because there's no dollar menu anymore. It's
sure,
value
right?
Menus,
Yeah.
So same thing.
Which one is it? Costco or is it Sam's Club that has like the $1 hot dog and they refuse to change the
Costco? It's like $1.50. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was saying it's been that price for such a long time that they refuse to change it, even though they're actually losing money on the hot dog at this point. They're keeping it at that price.
Right. Because they're making so much money in the rest of the store.
Yeah. I don't know if I should talk about. I'll save this. I'll save the anecdote I'm thinking of for the in-store pricing episode.
Okay, I have another one for in-store too with free samples. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll save that one.
We'll save that. So I have another good example of for in-store shopping stuff to talk about. See, this is called foreshadowing.
Yeah.
We're getting you interested in the next episode so that you come back and listen to it too. And this is free, so we're not even getting you to like pay us or anything. This is just you get all this for nothing.
Yeah.
No, that's your perceived value.
Yes.
Free. Okay, so talking about perceived value, I think that kind of leads pretty easily into the next thing, which is this concept of what they call innumeracy or framing.
Okay. Yep.
And it's this concept of why we're obsessed with sales. So talk a little bit about that.
That innumeracy refers to the fact that we're not always great at math, or we don't want to think about math. Mm-hmm. So if you have a pizza shop that says buy 2 pizzas, get them both 50% off, or buy one get one free, which one are you going to choose?
Yeah.
You're going to choose the one that says free because for first we all like free. Everybody likes free, but there's no math involved.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the first part, the concept of I'm getting something for nothing.
Yeah.
Even when you're technically not. And I remember somebody doing that at when I was younger. I knew somebody who worked for the Humane Society, and they were selling little cat toys and stuff like that at the thing. Like, so when you adopted a cat, you would buy a little cat toy or something like that, right, to take home. And they had them there, and for the longest time they were I think they were like I'm going to show my age. I think they were like 50 cents.
Okay. for
this cat toy, or whatever. And they found that like occasionally people would buy one, but it was they did it. They changed the sign to 2 for $1. Right. And all of a sudden they were selling cat toys like crazy. Because it was this nice round number. They didn't have to like dig for change back whenever people paid with change.
Yeah.
And there was this, I have $1 on me. Oh, and I get 2 for $1.
Yeah,
that was a great deal.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Same price.
Right.
But they like tripled their sales by just changing the sign from buy one for 50 cents to getting 2 for $1.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because you sometimes see in stores like, or you have to do some mental math because it's, buy one for this price or buy 4 for, a different price. And you're trying to decide, okay, am I actually getting any money off of that deal, or are they just doing the math for me and saying, hey, if you buy 4 of these, is that a marketing thing or am I actually getting a deal?
Yeah. Some additional foreshadowing. They're not just doing the math for you. We'll definitely talk about that too. Okay, so what else do we have for psychological sales tactics that we can talk about here?
We have artificial time constraints, which is scarcity, urgency, and fear of missing out.
Of course there is. Yeah.
So just like we've kind of talked in the past on scams and stuff, these scammers that try to get you to act fast because something's going to happen. It's the same thing with an opposite for marketing or for stores. There's a sale, it's a limited time, or there's a limited quantity. There's always some sort of urgency to get you to not think and just buy.
Yeah.
So very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely identify with that. I mean, my wife loves to go to, I always feel like obligated to say this. I'm not trying to call anybody out. We're using real world examples here. And quite frankly, in a weird way, we're giving you credit because
it works.
It works. Right. So my wife loves going to Bath and Body Works.
Yep.
Right.
Me too.
And they a lot of times, and here's the thing that gets me. They have these limits on stuff, but sometimes like the limits are crazy high. Like they'll have like a sale on hand sanitizers, and they'll have limit 16.
Yeah.
You're like, limit 16, but yet people will buy 16 of those things.
Yes.
You know,
we gave out those little hand sanitizers as little like take homes for baby shower.
Oh yeah.
It was here. Thanks for coming. Take a hand sanitizer on your way out. You know, because you buy them and you never use them. We have a tote of soaps from Bath and Body Works.
Okay.
Every time there's a sale, we get more.
Yeah.
I don't use them. My wife is the only one that uses them. How much soap can she use?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, some of them are for gifts for other people and whatnot.
Sure, why not?
But yeah, they're doing a great job at their marketing.
Yeah,
they really are.
Yeah, and honestly, they have an advantage too, which again, leans into that first thing we talked about, where there's always some buying season.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they can lean into that hard because it's like, oh well, I don't want to use the falling leaves scent because it's spring. So I have to have the morning rain cloud scent instead. And then what happens to the falling leaves ones that you have in your closet? I'll wait and save them for fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. When does fall come around? I'm not going to use those. There's new scents out that I want to go buy.
Right.
So there's
and they're the limited time thing.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, they had a sale recently on like retro scents, and my wife's favorite scent was one of these retro scents that hasn't been on the market for years and years and years type thing. So you got to buy all of them, and because you don't know when they're not going to come back yet. McDonald's is the same thing with the McRib. Everybody flocks to McDonald's around November to get the McRib. Because it's for a limited time, even though they know they're going to get it every year at the same time. It's like the latest and greatest
thing. It might be the last time this time.
You never know. Yeah.
Shamrock Shake.
Shamrock Shake. That's another good one.
Same thing. You know. Yeah, totally. And then. I've also seen this is also something that I've been noticing more online, and I don't know if it's just that I'm picking up on it more or they're using it as a tactic more, is the only so many left.
Yes.
I've seen that a lot on like online shopping these days, where I'm looking at something and then it'll say like, oh, only 3 left, and you don't know if there's really only 3 left. Is there only 3 left today because you haven't gotten a new shipment yet? Is there only 3 left because it's been discontinued?
Yeah.
But even just that simple question that's in your mind makes you think, well, maybe I should buy it now because there's only 3 left.
I think airlines have even gotten like accused of like manipulating that data based on how many times you've searched a specific destination, like only 5 seats left at this price, then you use a VPN or use a different computer or something like that, and that number changes, you never know.
And you're right. I mean, some of it is a little conspiracy theory-ish, like it's anecdotal evidence.
It would make sense type thing.
I wish there was, and it's funny, like people have done studies to determine, for example, whether or not airlines are truly manipulating the price based on how often you ping their website. And statistically speaking, they have not found a strong, any strong evidence that that's happening.
Oh, really?
However, the fact that airlines are really particularly good at this is this whole dynamic pricing thing, which again, we will talk about in one of these future episodes. The prices are changing all the time.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes this sort of confirmation bias where the website is adjusting, or the airline or whatever is adjusting the price every single day
based on how many people are viewing
and all that, because based on the hundreds of thousands of people that are viewing that particular thing.
Right.
But you only know you. Right. You only know your actions.
Yeah.
So when you check it out today, you're not thinking about the fact that there are 300,000 other people checking out that same flight today.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you come back tomorrow and it's a higher price. Now you think, oh my God, they're tracking my movements and they're raising the price on me.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's probably because 300,000 other people checked that price yesterday. And now they're going, hey, there's a pretty big demand for this. We're going to raise the price. So they are raising the price, but they're not raising it because of you.
Yeah.
They're raising it because of you and your 300,000 friends.
So then how does that work when they say like, oh, your best days to book a flight are, I don't know, Wednesday and Thursday or something like that. Like a specific day is the best day to book because the prices are going to be lowest. Wouldn't you think that everybody's going to look at that website?
You would think,
and raise the price. So yeah, I don't know.
Which also begs the question: are they saying it that way? And their intent? Maybe it's their version of a sale. You know, they know that a bunch of people are being told, "Hey, Tuesdays and Thursdays are the best day to get a price."
Yeah.
You lower the price by $10 a ticket, but you raise your ticket sales by 300%.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you're dealing in volume, not in quantity,
right,
or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Yeah. So, okay. What else do we got here? We got luxury. We got you sort of touched on this earlier.
Yeah,
this concept of like doing the opposite of these like luxury brands that.
Yeah, they'll do the round numbers, not ending in 99, ending in zeros.
Okay.
That makes you think that the product or the service is more luxurious or higher quality. Restaurants do that quite often. Higher end restaurants, they won't do like the cents on a price. They'll do something is $37 and not $36.99.
Yeah.
They won't put a
they don't put the decimal points either sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. They don't put the decimal points.
Yeah.
And they don't put the price tag or the price symbol, the money
the
symbol.
dollar sign. Okay, yeah. So it just says like filet mignon 40.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like 40 calories? $40?
Ooh, I will take that for market price. Yeah.
Oh, market price. That's another one.
Yeah.
I mean that gets you because you don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that old adage. I mean, well, if you have to ask, you probably
can't afford it. Yeah.
So
I rarely buy anything market price. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you see, being close to the shore is notorious for that because you get the sea bass market price.
Yeah, and eat seafood,
things like that, like fresh caught this morning, but they only caught 2, so now it's $5 more than it was yesterday.
Supply and demand, right.
But you don't know that, it's just market price,
right.
But I do think that you have a point with there is the reverse sort of attitude, and I think I immediately think of the Ritz-Carlton whenever I think of situations like this. Yeah. Like you have the concept of, okay, I'm not going to go to the complete extreme, but like let's talk about like you have a Days Inn or a Hampton Inn or something like that. That's sort of like what would be considered on a travel app to be a 2-star hotel, right? It's clean. It's comfortable. You get a bed. You get a TV. You get free breakfast or something maybe the next day. You get complimentary free Wi-Fi that can steal a bunch of your data when you connect to it.
Yeah.
But in reality, then you go to the Ritz-Carlton, right? Or one of these higher end hotels. And all of a sudden you still get a bed. You still get a TV. You still get free Wi-Fi that'll steal your data. But yet all of a sudden you're paying, instead of $200 a night, you're spending $1,000 a night. Like, what are you really getting for that? Well, you're getting the experience, I guess, and you're getting the ability to tell your friends
that you stayed in a Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
That's that perceived value. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you truly sleep better? I don't know. I don't think you do.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're spending your entire day in that hotel room,
Well, yeah, that's you make a very good point. If you're traveling and you're the type of person that actually wants to see the sights and explore the area that you're traveling to, you're probably not spending all that much time in your hotel room at all.
Yeah.
And you're paying for the entire day. I mean, you can come and go as you please. You're paying for the entire day, but in reality, how much time are you actually in that room?
Right.
It's a fraction of what you're actually paying for.
Right.
And now you can't even steal the stuff anymore because they just charge your hotel. Like, not that I'm advocating that, but I mean that used to be sort of the the gimmick too was like, well, I got my money back because I got a free robe, or I got a free, you know, I got 16 bars of soap, you know, like there were, and now they have everything like sort of locked down in the shower where you can't take anything off of the wall. They've gotten
pressure sensors on all of the mini bar and all of that kind of snacks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I remember previous job, me and my coworker went to, we're in Chicago for a convention.
Yeah.
And we had bumped that tray that held like the Voss water and all of the fancy snacks and everything.
Yeah.
And it shifted a bottle of water. And we got charged for it because it changed the like where the
orientation of the bottle.
It changed the pressure of that pressure sensor or whatever it is. And we got charged for a bottle of water that we didn't even drink.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very sensitive, I guess. Yeah.
I wonder why they would do it that way as opposed to just waiting for somebody to come in the next day and like evaluate what was missing.
I guess they didn't want you swapping it out, or maybe you opened it and poured, you drank that good water and you put in, the
tap water out of the bathroom sink and refilled it or something. Yeah, I guess that's a possibility.
But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That is pretty crazy. That there was something else that Nancy Harwood talked about when it came to this concept of like the luxury or whatever, is this idea that we tend to equate. It goes and it kind of ties into that whole mental shortcut thing that we talked about too when evaluating pricing. We tend to evaluate things that are tough to quantify based on time and effort as proxies for actual price evaluation. So those are a lot of like complicated words to say that basically if we think you spent more time or put more effort into something, we think it's more valuable, even if it may not be.
Right.
And so you see examples where so one good example is, have you gotten those things in your mail from like the local window company that looks like it's handwritten?
Yeah.
It's this mental construct that like, oh, it wasn't
personal, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't something that came off of a printer that somebody printed out 12,000 of these.
Right.
It was handwritten for me. And now I feel obligated that, they put this effort and time into this. Maybe I should call them after all.
I do spend an extra few seconds looking at it before I throw it away. But yeah.
Yeah. They've even done something like very simple things. They've done studies where if you are in a restaurant and the waitress puts a little thank you and a little like hand-drawn heart or a smiley face on your bill before she brings it back to you, that you're inclined to tip more.
Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. Yeah.
It's a
little personal touch. Yeah.
Because we evaluate this. But you could have had the same exact service experience without that. But when at the end of your meal, you're presented with this little like smiley face and a thank you, handwritten thank you, you're like, oh, well, yeah, she really did do a good job. I'm going to throw an extra.
Yeah. You appreciated me, so I'm going to appreciate you a little bit more. Yeah.
And there have been studies that show that waiters and waitresses can increase their tips by like 15-20% just by putting a little note on the bill.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Then,
handwritten apologies. That's another thing. Like if you work with a company and the company makes a mistake or something like that, rather than a form letter or something like that, having a little handwritten apology that says, we apologize for the mistake or whatever, can make a huge difference in how easily you are or how willing you are maybe to forgive a mistake. With a particular company.
For customer retention or whatever. Yeah.
So, again, going back to what you said at the beginning, this is from the consumer point of view, but if you are a business,
these are tips that you can take to, maybe better your business a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 100%. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about what businesses might be able to learn. There's a little section here I think that we can talk about that are specific to businesses and what they can pull away from this. So,
testing prices was the first one.
Okay.
So, I mean, run your sales. So put a product on for, I don't know, the $4, and then the next week run it for $3.99. See if you get more sales one week versus the next week.
Yeah. And track the data. I think that's the important thing. You can't, the whole concept behind testing means that you have to actually record the results so that you can go back and look at it. And maybe that goes back to that thing I said earlier where we have a lot of these gut check experiences and these sort of anecdotal things, but we don't really know like we don't have it written down that
Yeah.
yes, every time I did this, my sales went up.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely write things down and then track the data after the fact.
Yeah.
Don't make assumptions necessarily about it. Use A/B testing. If you have multiple locations for your store, maybe you run 2 different hair salons or 2 different, hardware stores, run, a price at one that ends in 99 and one, the other that ends in 0.
I mean, even demographics are different between 2 stores. You might have a store in a lower income area that maybe a lower price is more appealing versus in a higher end community that may be willing to pay those higher prices.
Yeah. And you see stores and you see companies do this. I mean, there are definitely companies out there. I worked for a restaurant when I was my first job was at a Ponderosa Steakhouse.
Okay.
Which
Wish
I think,
those were around again.
I think there's one left somewhere in the Midwest somewhere that's probably independently run.
I think there's one actually in Pennsylvania. I think there's one in Butler. I just watched a video the other day.
Really?
Yeah, there's one in Butler, in Butler, I think.
Today we are at Ponderosa in Butler, and Ponderosa actually at its peak had 700 restaurants in the United States, and today there are only 15, and this is the last one that remains in Pennsylvania.
Man, I could go for a Ponderosa wing, man.
Well, go to Butler.
Those were good. I mean, they were good. Anyway, my point being that, and I think hotel chains are actually probably even a better example, right? You have Hilton, right? And you have Hilton hotels, which are your 4 stars. And then you have, say, your DoubleTrees that are 3-star hotels. And then you have Hampton Inns that are 2-star hotels, right? So, but you're still giving your money to that same company.
Yeah.
So the thing is, they are attracting the different demographic based on what that demographic finds appealing about getting hotel room.
Yeah.
Right. And they're giving that person the ability to sort of, okay, well, maybe I don't need the free breakfast, so I'll do this. Or maybe what I have found, what I think is funny too with like Hilton hotels is a lot of times they consider DoubleTrees to be the sort of like the 3-star, like the mid grade.
Okay.
Okay. But DoubleTrees don't include free breakfast. You have to pay for breakfast, but they have a restaurant. So that's the thing. And so you're trading off. You're saying, oh, well, I'm at a DoubleTree. I don't get free breakfast, but I also don't have to eat my free breakfast from the buffet line of waffles and apples. Yeah. I can order myself a breakfast in the hotel, right?
So it's more luxurious. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Costs more money. So it's weird. It's like the hotel is cheaper at the Hampton Inn most of the time, like per night.
Yeah.
And you get a free breakfast, which adds to the value.
Yeah.
Right. But in reality, like it's what you find important.
Yeah.
Right. And what you value out of your experience.
Right.
So the same company, and you can do it again, if you're a small business or something like that, you can do it even if you have 2 or 3 locations. If you have one location that's in an area of town that is pretty affluent, maybe you tailor your advertising in that location a certain way compared to the way you do in another part of town.
Yeah.
True. So there's a lot to this stuff, and we are going, like I said before, I think that we are going to have at least another 1, if not 2 episodes about shopping and prices and what to look for and how to shop smart. We talk a lot on this show recently about how prices have gone up across the board. My gosh, we went out and we literally went out and we bought 6 pounds of 93% lean hamburger over the weekend at one of our local stores.
Did you take a loan out?
Well, no, because they had it on sale for $5.99 a pound.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
So we were like, yes, please.
Yeah.
And we went out and bought 6 pounds of this stuff. And then, my wife's at home, like cutting it into like, parts and like freezing it into individual sizes for us to make meals out of or something, because, you catch that deal.
Yeah. That's a good topic to talk about is cooking at home versus eating out, or which are you actually getting a better deal? Can you buy, if you're you and your wife want to make a meal, can you buy the same ingredients at one price that you could, go out and have that meal in a restaurant,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how much of that value is in the time that you save and versus not and all that. So there's a lot to cover here. So we definitely invite you to please like, subscribe so that you don't miss this stuff, because we're going to talk about a lot of really great things on pricing and shopping and stuff here in the next couple of episodes, I think.
Get into that season.
So, yeah. All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah.
This podcast focuses on having valuable conversations on various topics related to banking and financial health. The podcast is grounded in having open conversations with professionals and experts with the goal of helping to take some of the mystery out of financial and related topics, as learning about financial products and services can help you make more informed financial decisions. Please keep in mind that the information contained within this podcast and any resources available for download from our website or other resources relating to bank chats is not intended and should not be understood or interpreted to be financial advice. The hosts, guests, and production staff of Bank Chats expressly recommend that you seek advice from a trusted financial professional before making financial decisions. The hosts of Bank Chats are not attorneys, accountants, or financial advisors, and the program is simply intended as one source of information. The podcast is not a substitute for a financial professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation.
Psychological pricing is a powerful tool that shapes how we perceive value by turning subtle visual and numerical tweaks into emotional buying triggers. While there's nothing inherently wrong with businesses using these tactics to frame their offers, understanding the science behind left-digit bias, font sizes, color contrast, and other tactics strips away their subconscious influence. Ultimately, being aware of these subtle tricks empowers you to look past the presentation, focus on the actual numbers, and become a much smarter and more deliberate shopper. As always, AmeriServ Presents Bank Chats is produced and distributed by AmeriServ Financial Incorporated. Music by Schneckmind. Editing, production, and co-hosting duties performed expertly by Jeffrey Matevish. This particular episode is the first in a series that we are producing that focuses on pricing, shopping, and how to make the most of your money. So be sure to subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. You don't want to miss what's coming next. That's fear of missing out, by the way. We'd also love it if you'd share the show with your friends and family. For now, I'm Drew Thomas. So long.